Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Hollywood Capers, released in 1935. It's the 114th in the series and it's directed by Jack King. You can find this beautiful restoration on the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 3 DVD set. A HD version is out there, and guess what? It's also in the public domain, so you guys can watch it at the end of this review. And you can see whether you agree with some of my points in this short or whatever, but yes, you can actually watch it at the end. Just for consistency's sake, I'll just go through the synopsis anyway, because why not? So we have Beans trying to get into a Hollywood studio, and once he finally gets in, he notices a scene, he gets caught, and he ends up running into this Frankenstein's monster / robot hybrid thing, which we'll definitely touch upon as we go through the short itself. So in terms of trivia for this one, look, I noted in the first Beans review, which was a cartoonist nightmare, that short must have started off intended to be a Buddy vehicle, but they decided, hey, we're going to retire Buddy and try something new, so they simply replaced him. And if you watch that short, you know that it's interchangeable with Buddy. Here, looks like they made a more stronger effort to introduce the character of Beans. I mean, you get that beautiful joke of him saying, hey, I'm Beans of the Boston Beans. So he actually introduces himself. So it's kind of like him introducing himself to the audience. And we even see a few other characters here, like Miss Kitty and Oliver Owl. And these were all originally featured in the short directed by Frisch Freleng, I Haven't Got a Hat, which was kind of like a tryout cartoon. So here, I guess they're not kids like they were in I Haven't Got a Hat, where it was a parody of the Our Gang shorts that were around at the time. So yeah, I guess they're a little bit more grown up. I don't know, there's no real consistency here, but in any case, studio put all of their faith in Beans being the new star, overlooking the fact that Porky, in hindsight, was actually the better choice because he was something new, he was stuttering and so on. He doesn't appear in this short. Some have said that little brief appearance of the pig that you see in the short is him. I don't think so. I think it's just a generic pig, but anyway. But with the other two characters here, so you got Oliver Owl, and what's interesting is that his personality here is consistent with I Haven't Got a Hat, where he's all snobbish, and here he plays a snobbish film director, and this is his last appearance in Looney Tunes short. He would find a second life, so to speak, in the Looney Tunes comics, where he would be friends with Henry Hawk, who was a semi-popular Looney Tunes character in his own right. Miss Kitty would go on to a few more appearances with Beans, usually, and again, once they realized that Porky was going to be the true star, they retired her at the same time as Beans. But someone noted in the comments of A Cartoonist Nightmare, which I didn't realize, and it's actually a very good point, that in the short I Haven't Got a Hat, Beans was seen as this very mischievous person and he just get into trouble all the time. Here, he does get into a little bit of trouble, so he didn't get into much trouble at all in A Cartoonist Nightmare because, well, like I said, I think that was just a vehicle for Buddy and that was it. Here, yeah, he gets into a little bit of mischief, but it feels toned back, scaled back, and I think that's just Jack King being Jack King, because as a director, he wasn't particularly ambitious, at least at this time. He started off doing these weird and wonderful angles in his shorts, but now it just feels like he's just going through the motions. But Beans, if you look at him as a character, there's really nothing too special about him. Again, he comes across as a bit of a Buddy clone anyway. If they kept him being a very mischievous character, like in I Haven't Got a Hat, where he would just be maybe this kid that gets into a lot of trouble or something, and maybe Oliver Owl is at his wit's end or something along those lines, it could have maybe worked, but as it stands, it's just another generic bland character. But let's go through the short from start to finish and go through some of the trivia and go through who some of these celebrities are in the beginning and anything else. So opening up, unlike A Cartoonist Nightmare, we actually see our title card saying featuring Beans. So again, this just, I suppose, validates my theory that this is the first true Beans short. I guess I can sleep soundly at night figuring this out in any case. But the first shot we see Warner Brothers Studio, which looks kind of ramshackle, but anyway, the scale looks kind of off, especially with that car looking a bit too big for that shot. Anyway, it's only a brief shot, but it's just something that just stuck out at me. But in any case, it's fine for what it is. So the first celebrity we see is a caricature of W.C. Fields, and it's kind of weird, actually, that I recently did a review for Little Blabbermouse, where there was a mouse version of him, but he was basically a well-known comedian and actor at the time who had this persona where he just came across like he was drunk all the time. He had this big nose, and his face was definitely ripe for caricature, and he was very well known. If you get a chance to see anything from W.C. Fields, definitely do so. So we get a little introduction as to what the situation's going to be in a few moments, but we see that the guard is letting in W.C. Fields. Now, just to go through some of the voice acting here, as per Keith Scott's Wonderful Cartoon Voices book. So the guard is voiced by Billy Bletcher, and that's the only thing he does here. And I've said this in quite a few reviews, but Billy Bletcher actually had a bigger range than you might think. He's definitely well known for his rather deep voice when he would voice someone like Peg Leg Pete or whatever, but this just shows that he was capable of doing much more than that.
Good morning. Good morning.
You have Bernice Hansel doing Kitty. You have Tommy Bond doing the voice of Beans, who was a child actor at the time. He's not sure of who does the other voices like Oliver Owl or the Tortoise, and he notes that there's some staff voices here and there, so I'm not sure who does W.C. Fields. And as always, with any mysteries out there, hopefully more information will come to light. But we get a rather pointless gag involving W.C. Fields using this guard as a bit of a clothes hanger of some sort. He puts his umbrella and hat and so on, and does like a pool cue type thing with the ashes at the end of the cigar. Honestly, it's not particularly funny in my view, but it's the sort of thing that W.C. Fields would actually do in his comedy, and much better than what's shown in this short as well. So then we see Beans driving down in a rather unfunny bit where the car, I guess, is supposed to show that he's just driving an older car or a car that's not particularly well serviced. But anyway, he drives up and we hear the guard sounding a bit more like Billy Bletcher this time, saying, "Well, who are you? And here's your grand intro. It's Beans of the Boston Beans."
Who do you think you are?
Beans is the name. One of the Boston beans.
And for the few of you who are wondering, in case you weren't aware, there's an American dish called baked beans, and it's typically called Boston beans. So in case you were wondering what that's supposed to be, I'm sure when you first heard it, you were just rolling around the floor with laughter. But the next bit's unintentionally funny, where the guard's like, yeah, he's having none of this, but he's a pretty strong guard. He pushes the car not only to just go back to where he came from, but he builds up speed, goes up a tree, and the tree blows up, and Beans is now dead. Okay, he's not dead, but still, that explosion was pretty significant, so I'm surprised he didn't die, but then again, we wouldn't have a cartoon otherwise, so we see Beans hanging there just looking all surprised. I mean, he didn't really tell the guard why he was even there, he just says, "I'm Beans of the Boston Beans," and that's it, so anyway. And that bit with the horn just goes on for too long. I'm sorry, but yeah, Jack King, as my good friend Essie McPeter noted, he seemed to have issues with timing certain scenes. It's like he takes what's on the board literally and doesn't adjust things to suit the short. But anyway, it is what it is. So next up, we see our next celebrity, which is Charlie Chaplin, in a rather funny looking car just hobbling around. And that's a play on the way he would walk as his character, the Tramp. And once again, just like with W.C. Fields, if you can watch some of the older Charlie Chaplin movies, definitely do so, because his stuff is really good and really entertaining. And a lot of it's in the public domain too, so you should have no trouble finding it. We see Oliver Hardy, so a reference to the comedic duo Laurel and Hardy, one of my favorite comedy duos of all time. But we know that this is going to be Beans in disguise, and shocker, it is. But you know what's missing? The reason why Beans is here. Now, some of you might think I'm looking into it too much. Sure, you could make the argument in a lot of the times I talk on this channel, but here I think it's valid. We don't know why Beans is here. Does he want to be an actor? Does he want to be a director? Why does he want to sneak into this studio? They could have fixed this by simply having him say a line in the beginning as he was driving in that car that's bouncing around, saying, I don't know, "Oh boy, I can't wait to become an actor and become a Hollywood big shot," just anything, right? So then we can at least establish his motive for being here. But as it stands now, he's just here, and he walks into a closed set where we see Oliver Owl as a director, and I wonder what films he's made. You know, maybe is this his first film, or did he have a ongoing film career? See, that's overthinking it, by the way, so there's your difference right there. And with Jack King being Jack King, we get a rather bizarre scene. So we have Oliver Owl and, well, what we find out to be the cameraman, just pacing up and down, obviously thinking about what to do. Oliver Owl tells him, hey, start shooting. Why was he pacing in the first place? I don't know. But it's like quiet on the set and everyone's saying quiet, and it looks like Warner Brothers is quite cheap here. They use candles for their lights, but maybe it's an effect of the Great Depression that was happening at the time. I don't know. And even Beans' shadow in one part tells everyone to be quiet, and the microphone as well, in a very bizarre looking microphone thing. That looks... yeah, I'm not going to comment any further on how that looks, right? I'm sure you get the point. So now we see the scene involving a turtle playing the piano and Miss Kitty singing along. And, wow, that's some camera, though. The camera's legs are mechanicalized, even though that they're... I don't know. It's a Jack King shot. I mean, what do you expect? So now we shoot the scene, and I'm not even sure what movie it's for, but have Miss Kitty singing along, and we see the bartender starting to sing as well. Now, the song they're singing is called Sweet Flossie Farmer. I'm not really sure where the song comes from, but it's written by Ali Rubel and Mort Dixon, a pair that would write many other songs that are used in Looney Tunes. But I don't think I've seen that song in any other Looney Tunes short, so this might be the only one. But as the bartender's singing, and this is why I love restorations, if you look in the background, you've got some references to Punchy Pierce, so that's a reference to Ted Pierce, versus Hurricane Hardaway, so that's a reference to Ben Hardaway, who directed a few shorts around this time and was part of the Gags team. Looking at some of the other stuff, there doesn't seem to be much else. I mean, you have Fancy Spencer. Maybe that's a reference to Norm Spencer, part of the music team. I don't know. But we got a clam bake, a chowder party, scotch and soda, and I wonder who that boxer is in the background. So maybe they weren't really overthinking this one too much. So the next bit, that is directly lifted from Buddy's Beer Garden, so I guess the spectre of Buddy looms even at this point where they got rid of the character, but that's where this scene comes from, and I believe it's even animated by Frank Tashlin too, so I guess it's technically Frank Tashlin animation on a Beans short? I don't know. You make your judgments on that. And yes, I know, the next bit is overthinking it, but you see the camera is all bouncing along to the music. I wonder if the cameraman realizes that that's going to make the footage completely unusable. So I guess it's funny unintentionally, but anyway, I know, overthinking it, I get it. But this whole bit is just taking way too long. I mean, isn't Beans supposed to be this new star that they're trying to push forward? Why are they putting him to the sidelines? I don't know, but you see a bit where the camera goes up close, again, in a way that will make the film unusable, but anyway, and we see that Miss Kitty is pushing back the advances of someone that looks way older than her, but, you know, we won't get into that. But we see Beans again, and he gets knocked down. What a shocker. And I guess the gag is that this actor is holding his arms out, but Beans lands into his arms. It's not done particularly well, I'm afraid. And in another bit of Jack King weirdness, Oliver Owl is not happy with what he sees, and for some reason both the chair and the microphone are alive, and shocked as well. Why? I don't know. Again, it's probably funny for different reasons, but in any case. So Beans tries to introduce himself again using the whole Boston Beans thing. Oh, and another fun fact about Boston, that was considered to be one of the epicenters at the time for high society, so I guess it's like a double meaning. Boston Beans, food, Boston being high society. Anyway, I'm sure it was more funnier on paper anyway. So Oliver Owl is having none of this, so he literally throws Beans off the set in a bit that's not particularly well timed. It just takes forever for him to leave that room. I don't know why they needed all that extra thing. You'll just be thrown out into the next set and that's it. But anyway. But so you guys don't think I'm being so overly negative on this one, there is a great shot of Beans opening up the blanket and we see Frankenstein's monster underneath. So around this time we had Frankenstein come out, which is an absolute classic, much like I mentioned before with W.C. Fields and Charlie Chaplin and Laurel and Hardy. Frankenstein's another one you need to seek out and watch. It's a fantastic movie, definitely do it. And of course, Bride of Frankenstein as well. So this is a parody of the Boris Karloff version, in any case, because that would have been fresh on everyone's minds at the time. But here, rather than being something of a being with all different parts put together, it's more of a real tin can robot character. There seems to be this trend with animated shorts around this time where to do with mechanical items or robots. I know there was a Bosco short that did something similar, Bosco's Mechanical Man. And there'll be a few Disney ones as well, so there was definitely something there. Maybe there was a rights thing that they couldn't have the design here to be too close to what was done in that Frankenstein movie. I don't know, but hey, at least there's something good in this short, right? So Beans, in shock, ends up activating this Frankenstein's monster. You have to wonder though, this is a movie set, so why would they have a functioning robot like this? Oh, okay, guys. Yes, I'm overthinking it. This premise probably would have worked much better in some sort of a haunted castle where maybe Beans enters in and activates this Frankenstein's monster. Maybe they originally had that idea and then just put it in here, melding the ideas together. I don't know. But in any case, we've got our villain, so the chase is on. Even though I could see the gag coming a mile away, you see the robot just walking along, and instead of walking through the door, he just smashes through the wall. I mean, I definitely chuckled, so I'll give it that. But in the next bit, you'll see in the background are cats, and that's a reference to Ray Katz, who was Leon Schlesinger's brother-in-law, who was helping run the studio at the time. We then have another scene that doesn't really go anywhere, and that is the monster walking up to the cameraman and eating the camera. I will say though, as out of place as this particular scene is, you can definitely cut it out and nothing would actually change in this short. It still looks really good. I like how the monster's face gets closer and closer to the camera. Yes, I know it'd be out of focus, but whatever, we put that aside. And we cut quickly to him having eaten the camera, and then that whole bit of him chewing away, spitting out the bolts, and then fixing himself up. Was this needed? Oh no, definitely not. This could have been cut out, but it's still really nice looking, I'll have to admit. So then he notices Miss Kitty. So I'm not sure why he goes after her, but he does. But wait, no, he doesn't continue on. He sees himself in the mirror and decides to poke fun at himself in the mirror. He walks behind the bar, makes fun of himself again, and then in a very surreal moment, again, a lot of these kinds of moments in Jack King shorts, his reflection knocks him out into a bowl of water. Alright. Huh. I thought it was funny, but perhaps for all the wrong reasons. But again, where's Beans? He's supposed to be the new main star, so why are you not featuring him more in his quote-unquote debut short? And we waste even more time with this robot squeezing out the water in a bit again. All of this could have been cut out, but we then finally see Beans, and we've only got, I think, what, a minute to go in this short? Yeah, this short is definitely poorly timed, and this definitely needed another run through on the storyboards. So in a very stock standard bit, you have Beans walking up with a giant rod of some sorts, hitting the monster. The bar rotates around the monster, and Beans does the whole, oh shucks look, and the chase is on. But there's one bit of animation I noticed, it's just a little added touch, which I'm sure was done and Jack King probably didn't even notice, and that as Beans is walking along holding the rod, being extra silent to try and gain the element of surprise here, he looks up briefly at the pole, but then looks back down. It's not the sort of thing you need in that shot, but it gives it a little bit more character, so I wonder who animated that. I mean, they definitely were thinking more than Jack King would have been by directing this short anyway. So Beans gets thrown through a few doors and ends up at a wind machine and starts to use it on the monster. Again, credit where credit's due. I love the animation of the monster walking against the wind, showing that there's actual weight, like he's actually pushing against something. So it shows that the animators at the studio were definitely getting more and more skillful. Not quite at the level of what the Disney animators were doing, of course, but it's definitely bits and pieces like this that show how much they had improved over the years. So the wind machine gets closer and closer, and in an act of, well, I don't want to say the word, it begins with the letter S, seemingly, this monster just pushes right through and ends up getting turned into pieces, which ends up being in this rather weird machine. And if you look very closely, you even got what's to be like a squirrel on the spinning wheel, you've got a horn. The more I look at this, it's kind of bizarre, and the arms keep punching the head, and I'll give them credit, at least that looks kind of creative. Someone had to actually sit there and actually plan all that out in terms of animation, but we just end. That's it. So he defeats the monster, and what? Again, we don't get any answered questions here. Why is Beans there in the first place? We don't get a thank you from Oliver Owl. Maybe it's just too snobby, I don't know. What happened to little kitty? Who knows? So this definitely needed just a brief resolution of only maybe 15, 20 seconds. Like maybe little kitty saying, my hero, and Oliver Owl saying, you're hired, and we finish there or something. You definitely needed one further thing at the end. So what do I think of this short? It's not good. The timing is definitely off in a lot of places, and for a short that's supposed to introduce the new main star, he's barely even in it a lot of the times. We're focusing on all these other characters, and that seems to be a holdover from how Jack King would direct Buddy, because to be fair, Buddy was not an interesting character, whereas Beans at least is a little more interesting, but yeah, it doesn't really do much with him. So this one gets 5 out of 10. It's actually got some interesting animated moments. I do like certain parts of it, and a lot of it is funny unintentionally, but yeah, it's not a particularly great short. But you be the judge. As I said, it's in the public domain, so you guys can watch the short right now. Let me know if you think I'm being too harsh on this one. Let me know if you've seen this before. But that'll do it for this one. So until next time, take care.
Good morning, Mr. Seal.
Good morning.
Good morning. Who do you think you are?
Beans is the name. One of the Boston beans.
Good morning, Mr. Hardy.
Quiet. Camera. Action.
No rattler could rip her, no python could nip her, for she was a last word in class. Sweet Flossie Farmer, the lovely snake charmer, who fell for a snake in the grass.
She shunned all the geezers on flying trapezers and led all the acrobats past. The sweet Flossie Farmer, the lovely snake charmer,
Went boom for a snake in the grass.
Beans is the name. One of the Boston beans.
Thank you.